I'm Brian. Today's story is The Schnozolite. Once upon a time, Ava was having an almost perfect day. Sunshiny and warm, just like it's supposed to be at Cannon Beach. The only bad thing was that pesky little bee kept buzzing around her head down by the water. Bzzz went the bee round and round Ava's head. If she didn't know better, she would have thought the bee was trying to get her attention. But of course, that was a silly thought. It was just a pesky bee. It took Ava plenty of swatting and missing before the bee finally left her alone. After the long day at the beach, it was time to relax. So Ava hiked back to the cabin, plopped down on the floor, and watched her favorite Disney video. Yes, this really was a good day. But her good day was about to change. The sound started out quietly, a soft buzzing, like people talking too far away to understand. Then it grew louder and louder. It sounded like a swarm of bees the size of cows. When Ava ran to the window to look outside, she couldn't believe her eyes. It was a swarm of bees, but at least they weren't the size of cows. But there were thousands of fuzzy yellow and black striped bumblebees buzzing through the air like a gigantic fuzzy yellow and black striped cloud. There were so many of them, and they blotted out the sun. And then something strange happened. The cloud of bees rose up into the sky, and they began to break apart. The thousands of bees fanned out, covering the sky, and it appeared as if, yes, they were spelling out a giant word. It was right then that Ava knew these must be magical bees. In tremendous letters, 100 feet tall, H-E-L-P, help. Then, just as fast as they appeared, the magical bees reformed into a swarm and flew away, lightning quick, right off into the woods. Anyone else would have been terrified by this sight, but not Ava. She never really liked bees, but she wasn't about to ignore a cry for help. What did her mommy and daddy always tell her over and over? Always be nice to others, even icky bees. Ava knew what she had to do. Digging through her pockets, Ava took out 3 small round objects, about the size of marbles, each one a swirl of fabulous colors, each one glowing with a dull fire that seemed to radiate from deep inside. Magic crystals for magical bees, said Ava, and she stomped off toward the woods. Along the way, Ava saw fairies and pixies playing in the meadows, flitting from wildflower to wildflower like sparkling hummingbirds. Ava thought she even spotted a Schnozolite darting behind a tree. But it couldn't have been a Schnozolite. She remembered her brother Jackson telling her that Schnozolites sleep all summer in their secret caves. In case you're wondering, Schnozolites are cousins to dragons, but they can't really fly or breathe fire. They're generally harmless, but they can be very stubborn. Inside the dark woods, all was silent. Must be the muffle trees, thought Ava. They're so thick and leafy they block out all the sounds. Just the way I like it, said a deep, rough-sounding voice from off to Ava's side. Ava spun to her left to see where the voice came from, and there, standing on a low, broken stump, stood a Schnozolite. He was 10 feet tall with green scales, and every few seconds he would snort little puffs of gray smoke. Wait a minute, said Ava. What's a Schnozolite doing awake in the middle of summer? You should be fast asleep. And I will be. Soon, growled the Schnozolite. Now that those pesky bees aren't around to keep me awake with all their constant buzzing. If I can help you sleep, will you promise to bring back the bees? Asked Ava. The Schnozolite considered this for a long moment. Ava reached inside her pocket and took out one of her magic crystals. Krakatoa east of Java, chanted Ava, and the crystal jerked, twisted, and trembled, and suddenly 1,000 tiny shafts of light leaped up from the tiny crystal like 1,000 silver threads. The air was filled with dancing stars and planets that crisscrossed through the trees, and suddenly, whoomp! The Schnozolite fell flat on his back. Krakatoa west of Java, said Ava, and just as suddenly, the dancing lights all sucked right back inside the crystal, and the forest again was perfectly quiet, except for the snoring of the Schnozolite. Ava walked over and poked the sleeping Schnozolite. Hey, wake up! The Schnozolite snuffled and snorted and blinked. What happened? He sat up and rubbed his eyes with his front claws. You were asleep, said Ava. Then as soon as you bring back the bees, I promise to help you sleep all summer long. The Schnozolite looked deeply into Ava's eyes and took on what almost looked like a smile. You are willing to help the bees, and at the same time help me. You are truly a good person. I will keep my promise. But first, I would like you to tell me about yourself. I would like to know more about a person who is so kind and good. So Ava told him all about her, how she lived in a small town and how she loved to dance. The giant Schnozolite listened politely, and when Ava was finished, he clapped his giant claws together, and instantly a large hole opened in the trunk of several gigantic trees around them, and the air was filled with the familiar buzzing of thousands of bees as they poured out and raced up into the sky. I trapped them in the muffled trees, said the Schnozolite. That way they could make all the noise they wanted, and I couldn't hear them. You have kept your promise, said Ava. So now I will keep mine. She reached into her pocket and took out one of her magic crystals. Then she handed the faintly glowing marble to the Schnozolite and told him the magic words. The giant Schnozolite held the tiny crystal in one claw and reached out to Ava with his other. You are truly a good person, Ava. I will remember you in my dreams. Please come and visit me after I finish my summer nap. And quick as a wink, the Schnozolite tromped off into the forest. As Ava walked back through the forest, she listened to the singing of birds and the chirp of insects. And when she reached the meadow, she heard the familiar buzz of bees. Lots of bees. She looked up, and there above her were the swarm of bees, millions of them. But Ava wasn't afraid. Then, right before her eyes, the swarm broke apart and spelled out in tremendous letters, 100 feet tall, "Thank you, Ava." Ava smiled and thought to herself, this really was a perfect day. And because of that perfect day, Ava, the bees, and even the Schnozolite lived happily ever after.